Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the Grand Canyon Historical Society 2026 Virtual Outing Series. Uh, this evening, we have Mike McComb, who's a GCHS member and aviator, who will present his talk, Grand Canyon 1956 Midair Collision, What Aviation Archaeology Reveals. I'm Tom Sulpizio, president of the Grand Canyon Historical Society and vice president of the Patrons of the 1956 Grand Canyon Midair Collision. First, we start out by discussing the Grand Canyon Historical Society mission statement. We celebrate and promote the study and preservation of the Grand Canyon region's cultural and natural history for the education and enjoyment of its members and the public. There are three key words here, which I always zero in on: study, preservation, and education. Those are the nouns that are our mission. I should also add a sub-mission statement is that GCHS is the official MPS partner at the Grand Canyon for interpretation and educational services. If you are not already a member, please consider joining our organization. The dues are only $35 a year, and for that you receive our collectible quarterly magazine called Grand Canyon History. And we are an all-volunteer organization, so all of the dues go to supporting our programs. And if you are already a member, you may wish to consider donating. We have a drag-down menu at the donate bar on the homepage. You can direct your donation to a particular fund that you'd like to support. So our virtual outing tonight, Mike McComb will present Grand Canyon 1956 Midair Collision, What Aviation Archaeology Reveals. Mike is a GCHS and Patrons of the 1956 Grand Canyon Midair Collision member. He has a background in traditional archaeology and nearly 35 years of aviation flying experience, which has enabled him to develop an interest in aviation archaeology. His involvement in aviation archaeology dates back to 1985, when he located his first wreck, a North American aircraft F-86 Super Sabre military fighter jet that crashed on a dry bed lake in northern Arizona. Since then, Mike has participated and volunteered for aviation archaeology projects for the U.S. Forest Service and for the National Park Service. Most recently, he was actively involved in the establishment of the 1956 Grand Canyon Air Disaster National Historic Landmark that was established in 2014. That's a personal project that he has been involved in since 1990 and continues to help the Park Service today with the identification of remaining wreckage in Grand Canyon. Mike divides his time between Flagstaff, Arizona, and Las Vegas, Nevada, where he works for the Federal Aviation Administration as an aviation operations safety inspector and aviation accident investigator. You can read about his other aviation archaeology research and expeditions at his website. So without any further discussion, I'm going to turn the platform over to Mike McComb.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to this presentation, and let's start. Let's see here. I got so this is my basically my biography. You've already Tom's already mentioned it, but this is just a few things that I've done that I don't think were in the actual introduction. But yep, I'm an accident investigator. I've been with the FAA since 2014, and my pastime is aviation archaeology, and I've been involved with that since 1985. And this is actually a screenshot of my my former job before I went to work for the FAA. I was an air tour pilot, and did that for probably 15 years, and flew over the Grand Canyon and actually flew over the crash sites many times, probably over 1,000 times. I've taken passengers, and part of the tour we fly over the crash sites there in the Grand Canyon. So what is aviation archaeology? Well, the Wikipedia has it down as archaeology is a recognized subdiscipline within archaeology and underwater archaeology that is practiced in pursuit of finding, documenting, recovering, and preserving sites important to aviation history. And it includes structures and facilities, early aviation navigation sites, researching historic aircraft, and historic aircraft crash sites. These are some of the structures and facilities that involve aviation archaeology. The one on the lower right is the hangar at the Grand Canyon, the old Grand Canyon Airport near Red Butte. We've got early aviation navigation sites, and those include the beacon towers and some of the structures that made up some of the early navigation facilities. Researching historic aircraft, we have many different types, but these are a few of the historic aircraft. One of them, as you see up there in the upper left, is the Lockheed Constellation. And of course, we got historic aircraft crash sites. And these are a few that I've worked on in various locations all over the Western U.S., mid part of the United States and Alaska. So the Grand Canyon Midair collision documentation project, I began this in 1990. It was done on my own. And I just, because I flew over the crash site so many times, I developed an interest and started researching, and then eventually started making a multitude of backpacking trips down into the Grand Canyon. That included rafting across the river to get to the crash sites. And I've made about 7 or 8 of these trips since 1990. This is the location of the crash site. It's basically where the confluence of the Little Colorado River and the main Colorado River join together. It's called the confluence, and it's in the eastern half of the Grand Canyon, in a very remote area of the Grand Canyon that can only be reached by trail or Park Service helicopter. This is a kind of an expanded version. This is the project location, and this boundary here is a rough location of where debris from the midair collision ended up in the Grand Canyon. So my project methodology, I use newspapers, reports there, official reports, industry documents, interviews with those that were involved, which is getting to be very few because we're already at the 70th anniversary of the accident, and not too many people are around that remember, and especially those that worked on it. They're just not there anymore. National Weather Service, historical archive data, topographic maps, and that includes the CAB, Civil Aeronautics Board, wreckage distribution diagrams, and of course, Google Earth. Historic photographs, archival collections, federal, state, and private, and field work, on-site expeditions, and physical documentation of remaining wreckage. And that is what I'm involved with right now. I don't remove anything from the site. It's all documentation, and I provide that documentation to the National Park Service at the Grand Canyon. The locations of the study that I did at the Grand Canyon was the main impact site, United Airlines on Chuar Butte, the impact site of Chuar Butte, the chimney and ledge debris that came down on the ledges just below the impact site, the main impact site of TWA, which is on Temple Butte, tail section impact site from TWA, from where the tail separated from the actual aircraft in the collision. The collision debris field, which is extensive and covers a large area, several square miles. The recovery effort site, that is where the helicopters that were doing the initial recovery in 1956 and 1957, that's where they were landing, and some of the material that the recovery folks that were on site had left behind. The wreckage salvage staging site, and this is where they removed wreckage back in 1976 and brought it out of the Grand Canyon, and then staged the debris recovery on the Navajo Indian Reservation. So, yep, getting there is half the fun, and this is these are photos of what it takes to get to the crash site. It's a long hike. It's about 20 miles to the confluence from the South Rim. There's very little water available. It's on the Colorado River. That's the only source you have, and then some places you can't even get to the river. You also have to cross the river to visit. It's a very dangerous, hazardous expedition. I did it when I was younger, and it's getting much more difficult and very dangerous to do it if you're older. So this is the main impact site of United Airlines. It's located on Chuar Butte. The elevation of Chuar is 4,075 feet. The site is approximately 1,375 feet above the Colorado River. There's a slope from the river, and then it's at least 1,000 foot vertical cliff to where that main impact site is. And you can see it circled in red in the photo on the right. All right, there's the main impact site as it looked in 1976 and back when I visited the site in 2013. This is some of the pictures of some of the debris that I photographed up there. Of course, and again, nothing was removed. Everything was just documented, photographed, and identified. Some of these things, it just looks like scrap metal, but you can actually identify certain pieces, and I know pretty much where everything on that aircraft was located due to having the manuals and the maintenance manuals for that particular aircraft, the Douglas DC-7. And this is a rudder pedal fragment. This is one of those things that where you can just looks like a piece of junk metal up there, but it's actually one of those things that you can identify if you know the aircraft and know what you're looking at. So the rudder pedals are, of course, these small pedals, look like a bicycle pedal, that are located on the floor of the aircraft cockpit, and that's what helps steer the aircraft, makes it turn left and right much easier and coordinated. Some of these small items can be a reminder, like this placard that says 5A window seat. This is a window seat, and you can see it circled down there in the diagram, the cabin diagram. It was the left seat, left side of the aircraft. So whoever was sitting in 5A had a front row seat to a disaster in the making. They were able to see the left wing of their aircraft slicing into the aft fuselage of the Lockheed Constellation TWA Flight 2. So seeing that, I knew exactly where it was, where that location of that seat was, and it was just one of those reminders that just a very sad feeling, and you knew whoever was there was having the worst day of their life. The impact site of United Airlines, the Chuar Butte chimney and ledge debris. So even though the Park Service initiated a salvage recovery back in 1976, and I believe they did some in the 1960s, a lot of wreckage still remains. It's although smaller in most cases, the wreckage still remains. You can't get everything. When a plane collides at 21,000 feet, two airplanes collide at 21,000 feet, and they hit violently into the terrain, it completely leaves thousands, tens and thousands of pieces, and you just can't pick up everything. So there is pieces down in the Grand Canyon that are still there. They're protected under federal law, and you cannot remove them. So they're just there, and they're reminders of this air disaster. This is what the cliff looks like when you're looking at it from the slope, and on the right is the photograph of the chimney, and you can still see debris wedged in the chimney, and it's all along the ledges. Small items, but still very almost impossible to have been removed in the recovery effort and the salvage effort. So that everything was in those cases, those pieces were left there, and they remain there today. Here's some more pictures of ledge debris, fragments of fuselage, wing, uh, just a variety of different aircraft structure. And this is from the Douglas DC-7 United Airlines Flight 718 that struck the ledge on Chuar Butte. Here's a few photos of some more debris from United Airlines 718. This is a shoe, a bottom of a shoe, passenger or crew. And there's another fragment of, I think it's an oil cooler, part of an oil cooler with a placard on it. That is on the bottom left. That is one of those power recovery turbines. Each engine on the DC-7 had 3 power recovery turbines that helped the engine run more efficiently. And some of those power recovery turbines broke off on impact, and they're still on the slopes there of Chuar Butte. Here's another fragment that I found and documented down at the on the slope of Chuar Butte. This piece of wreckage is part of the word mainliner, and you can see the AI that I circled in red on the aircraft forward fuselage. That is the location of where that piece of wreckage on the right photo was located, and it tells me the way the bend is on the left side of that wreckage. That tells me that it was that originally was on the left side of the DC-7 when it collided into the cliff face of Chuar Butte. Here's some more wreckage from the United site. It's a piece I'm holding on the left side. There is the part of the lettering that said United Airlines, and that was located on the aft fuselage of the airliner. And so that really gives you kind of an idea of the destructive forces. This when the DC-7 impacted into Chuar Butte, it destroyed everything from the nose all the way to the tail. The piece that I'm with there on the right side is an aft emergency exit door that was located on the right aft side of the DC-7, and you can see where the impact actually sheared the door in half. So you're looking at the upper half of a door that was probably about 5.5 feet in length, and it's just completely sheared in half. And Douglas made aircraft very, very strong, and that door, I can tell you, that door is a very heavy duty. It's a piece of metal, and since the aircraft was pressurized, Douglas spared no expense on overdeveloping that structure, and it just sheared it right in half on impact. These are some of the ropes used by the climbers, and I don't know if this is from the climbers from the Colorado Rocky Mountain Hiking Club, or if this is from the Swiss climbers, but these are ropes that are still dangling after 70 years at the base of the cliff where the aircraft struck. All right, so this is the main impact site of TWA. It's on the northeast slope of Temple Butte. It's accessible from the river, and many people over the years have visited this site. And it's the site is currently off limits for visitation. It's discouraged by the Park Service to actually enter into this site. And it's really, it's one of those places you should really see from a distance and not venture in there, because it's just there's a lot of reminders of the folks that were on board that aircraft. 70 people, passengers and crew, were killed instantly at that location. So it's 1.3 miles from the United Airlines site. After collision, these aircraft kind of separated to the north and south and tumbled into the canyon. The site elevation is 3,100 feet, and it's approximately 400 feet above the Colorado River. This is what the site looked like in 1956. A lot of debris, a lot of destruction and tragedy there. This is what it looks like in 2012, and nothing really changes in the Grand Canyon. It looks that way today. So there's just a charred area of ground at the bottom of that drainage, and you can still see some disturbance. Most of the wreckage was removed in 1976. There's just a small area of debris scattered about, small pieces. This is some of the fragments that are surrounding the main impact site of TWA Flight 2. A cup that has the letters TWA. Again, that in the center photo, you've got that dark ash material. That's all burned material. There's a propeller blade, base of a propeller blade. There's on the upper right is part of the engine reduction gear for the propeller. And that bottom right piece is one of the superchargers from the engine, one of the four engines. There's a beverage container lid. This was in the galley, one of the galleys of the TWA Constellation, and you can look at the bends in that on that lid on the right side. You can just see that it was a very severe impact. The tail section impact site is away from where the TWA Flight 2 made its main impact. So it's located about, I'd say about 1,500 feet, maybe 2,000 feet to the north of the main impact site for TWA. And this is where the tail, during the collision, the tail broke off and it fell away from the main impact site of the main fuselage. This is what the tail section impact site looked like in 1956. You can see it was a triple tail. The Constellation had a very distinctive tail. It was a triple tail, two fins and a center fin. And the outer fins broke off, and you can see damage to the center fin. Some of that damage to the center fin was actually caused by the impact with the DC-7. This is what the tail section looked like in 1973. Now, all this debris you see here in this photo was removed by Park Service in the early 70s. I think it was also removed in 76. In 2006, I visited the site, and this is all that was remaining of the tail section, just small pieces. And you can see in that photo on the left, you can see the cutting there that somebody had purposely cut that section as part of the removal of that wreckage. Now, this is what really happened in the collision. This is a Mel Hunter drawing that was done for Life magazine, and you can see how the DC-7 left wing cut into the aft fuselage of the Lockheed Constellation. This is collision debris that is still down in the canyon, and it's just many hundreds of fragments, small fragments from the collision that rained down all over Temple Butte and across the river along the Beamer Trail, and some of it ended up on Cape Solitude, like uh, coats, magazines, seat cushions, those kind of lighter materials ended up on Cape Solitude. But all that area that you can see in that shaded area is all location of where debris came down. And yeah, I did some documenting of some of that wreckage that came down from the collision. And you can see it's just small pieces, structure. Some of it is actually has part numbers that can be um, documented to the Lockheed Constellation. Let's see, the recovery effort site at Temple Butte, 1956 and 57. This is where they recovered debris for the accident investigation. Uh, they were concentrating mainly on that DC-7 left wing, and that's how they determined the angle of impact based on the bending of the metal, the tears, and also paint transfers from the left wing into the tail section of the Constellation. This recovery effort was hazardous on its own because of they're using early examples of helicopters, and they're lifting heavy materials. So that's always a dangerous thing even today. But back then it was very risky with those underpowered helicopters. And this is some of the helicopters that were used in those recovery efforts. You can see various ones, Bell's, looks like a Chinook, Sikorsky's, um, just various helicopters used for those recovery efforts. And then on the bottom right is some of the uh, artifacts that the recovery team left. I guess you can call it trash, but today these are considered historical artifacts, and they are also protected by federal law as they tell the story of this tragedy. The wreckage salvage staging site, another um, uh, archaeology site that I've been researching. This is where they brought the material from the canyon, from the crash sites, put it up on the staging area, and then trucks took the wreckage out and took it down to Tucson for a salvage. But it was a very guarded operation. The Park Service wanted to make sure none of these items ended up in somebody's souvenir cabinet, and it was watched over very closely by the Park Service. Again, these pictures on the left were from the recovery. Here's a tire and a wheel assembly from the DC-7 that was left at the staging site. And it's a BF Goodrich Silvertown tire, very identifiable to the Douglas DC-7. Piecing together collision. This is a picture of a cabin bulkhead. This is near the main cabin door of the TWA DC-3. I'm sorry, the TWA Lockheed Constellation. And the picture on the left is what it looks like today. Just a fragment of that bulkhead. And this is what it looked like when it was installed on the right photo, when it was installed in the cabin. You can see there's an interphone there for the flight attendant. The flight attendant, or back then it was the TWA hostess, would sit in that seat and make announcements. There was a fold down table so she can write notes. And there's also a control panel that has switches to operate cabin lighting, and also so she can talk to passengers or the up at the cockpit through the captain and co-pilot up there. Another item I found away from the main impact site of TWA was a piece of plexiglass, and normally somebody would walk right over this, but actually this tells a story this tells me that the extent of the collision actually compromised one or two of the windows in the aft lounge of the TWA cabin, and it just gives you, it just kind of tells me that this collision was very violent and compromised the aft cabin and passenger area of that portion of the TWA aircraft. Host to seat frame fragments. These are fragments that separated during the collision at 21,000 feet. These are pieces that were blown out from the cabin decompression and were thrown away from the main impact site and came down on various ledges within the Grand Canyon. So a lot of these items were documented based on the description and also part numbers that were located on the fragments. Another item that I found down there was the aft lounge light vent overhead panel, and this is located in the aft lounge just above the aft facing seats, and you can see that the air vents and the lighting is still present on this piece of wreckage. Aft fuselage fragments. These are again our fragments that were along the Beamer Trail, all over the south portion of Chuar Butte, and just away from the main impact site of the Constellation. Another item was this please return to your seats. This was a sign that was located in the aft lavatory, and during the separation of the tail section in the collision, it broke away from its mount and fell from the 21,000 foot altitude. So part of what I do when I document everything, it doesn't really help me to keep all this information to myself. So I've been helping the Grand Canyon National Park in identifying fragments that are within their collection and also what is at the crash site itself. So this is a fragment of one of the propeller blades from the United Airlines Flight 718 DC-7, and it's in the park collection. And I was able to find a DC-7 and take the measurements and compare it with their fragment, and it's definitely from a DC-7 and very likely also United Airlines. It helped them. I helped them actually ID that fragment from the accident. Another piece from their collection is this nose gear door, and it's also from the nose gear. As you can see in the photo on the left, it's one of the door fragments of one of the doors on the nose gear of the Douglas DC-7. So back in 2014, the National Park Service designated the accident site as a historical landmark, and I was actually privileged to be able to help with this project and make calls and talk to some of the folks that had family on board the aircraft. I was one of many people that volunteered for this that helped create this National Historic Landmark, and it's very unique. There's I think this is the only one in the national park system, and it's definitely the only one that involves a commercial aircraft disaster. So that concludes my project and my presentation. For more information about aviation archaeology, please visit www.lostflights.com, or contact me, Mike McComb, at lostflights@gmail.com. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much, Mike. You can't hear the applause, but I can assure you there's applause in the background. Um, we're going to start receiving questions, which go to the YouTube comment section, and we'll recite those to you. Um, but I wanted to add before I forget, you want to get more of Mike McComb than you've had here in this lecture this evening. Mike is going to be one of our featured speakers on June 30th at the South Rim Shrine of the Ages, where the patrons of the 1956 Grand Canyon Midair Collision and the Grand Canyon Historical Society are sponsoring a full day of events for this, as Mike said, the 70th commemoration. It's one of the decade years. We need to do something special. The number of people that are still associated with the collision who were alive at the time, obviously, that's dwindling. But more importantly, we want to take advantage of experts. So we're going to have a meet the experts mini symposium, if you will, after the cemetery ceremonies. And keep an eye open for that with the Grand Canyon Historical Society, the patrons of the 1956 Grand Canyon Midair Collision websites. You'll get the schedule, and Mike will be a keynote speaker at that, as well as another expert who I believe is on this YouTube is watching tonight, and it's Mike Nelson. So. Davey, shall I read the questions or would you like to do so?
Well, we just have one so far, a
Okay.
general one. Did they assign fault for the collision?
Yes, and they actually faulted both both aircraft, both crews, for failing to see and avoid one another. Um, yeah, TWA Flight 2 had the responsibility to stay clear of clouds and see and avoid. The United Flight, United 718, had transitioned off airway, and at that point they were also responsible for seeing and avoiding. So, yeah, both aircraft, both crews were faulted. But the system at the time was really broken. The air traffic control system. They really didn't even have a system. It was it was prone to failure, and it just happened to happen over the Grand Canyon. Uh, it was um, it was something that was focused on in the investigation, and many changes were made um, to a lot of safety aspects as far as commercial aviation. It really started the development of a national airspace, uh, national radar that would be able to cover the continental United States and be able to track aircraft more efficiently and safely.
Thank you, Mike. If you don't mind, I want to make one comment about and emphasize what you said about the um, National Historic Landmark uh, and the status of the site. So, at several members' requests, and then also exchanging with Mike about this issue of the site being off limits to some extent. Uh, First of all, there are many National Historic Landmarks. There's 2,600 countrywide, nationwide, 47 in Arizona, and uh, there's actually 8 at the Grand Canyon. But they're common ones like the El Tovar Hotel, the Desert View Watchtower. Those are uh, architectural National Historic landmarks. The Park Service gave me a statement about what is allowed, and Mike recited it perfectly. They consider this a Class 3 site. The exact location cannot be revealed, and the nature of the site to the public. In fact, if you go to the website, the nomination documentation is not available to review. It's kept uh, recused, I guess. Um, so the guiding companies are restricted from visiting these sites due to their fragile nature. So there's fragile nature both from the the objects, the flora, and the fauna. Um, Mike, basically as a volunteer, has worked with the Park Service to help them identify all of these artifacts, and it's very important that the artifacts they be geolocated, they be where Mike takes photographs. He's taking a photograph. He's taking maybe a locator type of log and uh,
Yeah, GPS locations. Yeah.
GPS. Mike, if you would, I don't know see if any other questions have come in.
Yeah, we have a few.
Go ahead, Davey.
All right. Our friend Dennis Foster asks, have you come across any human remains in your visits to the area?
Yeah, in my early visits, I did notice some. I mean, it's one of those things in a disaster like this, the remote location. Um, you're gonna see if it's not something you're gonna identify as a body, but I mean, you've got you know s- um, broken, burned bones. I mean, very small fragments. There's nothing. A lot of it, much of it was cleaned up. So what you have still there is very small pieces, but yeah, you just can't. There's no way to get around that. There is, and that's one of the reasons why the Park Service really looks at this site and wants to protect it from disturbance. I mean, because you really have um, it's I wouldn't call it a burial site, but there's definitely evidence where there's still remains there.
All right.
Well, good. Go
Um,
ahead, Davey.
Terry Cleland asks, makes a comment that at JFK, you can see the TWA Constellation, now a lounge, but one
Yeah.
can imagine being on one. Kind of interesting. And see, Brian asks, is it true that the FAA was established because of this accident?
That
Which Brian?
that
I'm sorry,
is that
Brian.
is. Oh, go ahead.
Which Brian is it? I mean, you said Brian.
Brian Stinson.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
Yeah. So that I forgot to mention that. Yes, my current employer became as a result of this accident. So I'm kind of gone full circle a little bit with this because I had no idea in 1990 that I'd be working for the FAA
Hmm.
and investigating accidents, and especially investigating accidents and in the location that this is part of our work area, our district. So, um, yeah, the FAA was created as part of as a result of the accident. National radar, transponder technology, flight recorders. I can go on and on. Positive airspace above 18,000 feet. The rules changed completely as a result of this accident. So, anytime you're flying over Grand Canyon right now in a commercial airliner, you can you can recognize this accident as helping you safely fly today in a commercial aircraft.
Let's see, Rod Wardell asks, what did you do to prepare for your overland journey to the sites? How did you prepare for your trip?
Wow. Well, first of all, I think my first trip I was very underprepared. I'm lucky I didn't get helicoptered out of the Grand Canyon because I didn't bring enough water with me. It was just I didn't have the right shoes, the right boots. I mean, it was kind of a disaster, but I managed to survive and crawl my way out of the Grand Canyon after the first trip. But yeah, each one I've prepared a little differently and uh, some of the gear now is much lighter than it was in 1990. So I'm able to hike in there and not worry about a pack that weighs almost 100 pounds.
Hmm.
Cameras are lighter, so yeah, it's yeah, you really have to take into consideration the amount of food and water, everything down in the Grand Canyon. It's just a completely different hiking environment. The Grand Canyon is.
How long are these expeditions? Let's say a typical one, even the one in 1990, or which was to the TWA site. So, could you give the
Mhm.
audience an idea how long you spend on these
Yeah, so
expeditions?
the minimum is probably 6 or 7 days.
Hmm.
I've done 10-day hikes down there. But then again, the longer you stay down there, the more supplies you have to bring. So you really, I mean, you're packing in your own raft and have to pack it out. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's a big logistic, everything. And if you fail on anything like that, you're gonna end up in a bad situation down there. So
So the photograph that you have as your background with it's a photograph of you. Uh, you didn't have somebody else on the expedition. This you packed a single lens reflex camera, as you told me, and a tripod, and probably a
yes,
SLR at that point in the 90s
SLR
had
film
electronic. You could set it for a 10-second delay, but everyone should realize having
and a tripod. Yeah, tripods,
that's like 10
telephoto
pounds.
telephoto lenses. Yeah, I probably had probably a good 10 pounds of film, extra batteries, everything. It was probably 10 pounds of photographic gear. And now I can bring a small camera. You can even bring a phone and have a way of charging it. And you're only maybe not even a quarter of a pound. So it's yeah, it's a different world now. But the the conditions at the Grand Canyon, at the bottom of the Grand Canyon, are again, you have a very you have an environment that is totally different than what you have at the rim level. So you're going from like an alpine
Mhm.
level environment to a Sonoran desert environment, and you can be in a snowstorm up on the rim on the upper trail, and you could be, you know, summer conditions down at the bottom of the canyon. You have that much of an extreme.
You use the term MSL, which is mean sea level, as 21,000 feet, but then you used 18,000 feet as the approximate above ground level. Uh, could you, for us non-aviators out there, could you explain uh, obviously the difference between the two and what's the ground level in a place where you've got terrain with which has all kinds of
Yeah.
elevations?
Yeah, so 21,000 feet, that's your elevation above sea level. So
Mhm.
you're going from 0 to 21. Now you got terrain that at the bottom of the canyon, I think the river's
Mhm.
at 2,700 feet. You have
Mhm. Okay.
Chuar Butte at 5,000 something. So you got terrain that rises above the sea level uh, of 0. So yeah, so you the the fall the distance that the both aircraft fell was around probably 17 or 18,000 feet. Yeah.
Let's see
Uh,
a
go
question from Dwight Winger. How long did it take for the first responders to reach the sites?
So the it took well, first of all, the aircraft were missing for almost a day. They didn't know. They just knew the aircraft were not responding to radio calls, and the and it took about a day. There was an air tour flight that was flown by the Hudgen brothers, the early owners of Grand Canyon Airlines. They were the first ones. He noticed some smoke around the confluence, but the pilot uh, he he thought that was a lightning strike, the smoke that he saw. So he didn't think much of it when he saw it. It was only back when he was having dinner after he had spent all day flying that he heard the report of missing aircraft. And he thought, well, maybe that smoke was something that he should look at more closely. So the next morning, he went, got in his airplane, flew, went down low. First thing he saw was the unmistakable tail section, the three fins of the Lockheed Constellation. So he knew that that was one of the missing aircraft, the TWA aircraft. And then when he was flying in that area, he noticed another um, smoke plume that was coming off of a ledge at Chuar. So he went to look at that, and he just saw just a fragmented debris, burning debris field that was still smoking. So yeah, it took almost a day before they were able to identify the site and location.
I think they're interested in if you've written some books.
I've written many articles on this, and it's actually been in a couple books that I've co-written, but I've never written a book specifically about this accident. I know a lot of people have been asking me to write a book, but um, it's definitely something I'm considering.
You're very modest, Mike, in the fact that we're talking about air, this air accident, but you're also quite notably one of the experts on the 1942 Carroll Lombard crash,
Yeah.
which is south of Las Vegas, uh, at Good Springs, which is a little podunk town off of I-15. So that one you've discussed with me is it possible, it could be possible a monograph or a
That's
book.
that's my current book project that I'm working on right now is that story, and then I think once I complete that, I might consider writing something
Yeah.
on this one.
So I'm going to throw more accolades your way. If any of you should ever, make that drive, and it's common to go to Vegas and drive on 15. There's a there's a Good Springs Saloon, and I think that's what it's called. Is it not good?
Pioneer Saloon.
Pioneer Saloon
Good Springs is the small ghost town.
is the ghost town. So if you go into the Pioneer Saloon, um, there's a room in the back where a lot of Mike's investigation work, his photographs about that accident are on display. So it's like a mini museum. And for those of us in the patrons group, we're kind of a little bit like, we got to get something like that ourselves because, that accident, that tragedy has its own, well, all being in a saloon, it has its own display or exhibit. We have a couple more minutes. Any other questions, Davey?
I think that's it. A lot of people are just thinking very, very interesting. Some of them remember that day.
Uh, Mike, it's on your website, and then we've had a discussion because I was in Tucson at a museum uh, going on 4 weeks ago, and there are other pieces of wreckage in the Arizona History Museum, which Mike has been a resource to the curator there. Specifically, you saw the cockpit of the DC-7 in one of Mike's slides tonight, one of his photographs, and the wheel or the yoke is the fragment that's in the museum. I mean, this was literally donated to the museum in the 60s. It was in the 60s, like 67, if I'm not mistaken. So it was one of the cleanups. But Mike could look at that. He's commented, I mean, you've been down there yourself, but I spent some time there, and you made some conclusions just by the nature of that wreckage.
Yes, so the control wheel from the co-pilot side is one of the artifacts in that collection.
That's right.
And basically identified it from from what the control wheel had specifically on it. There was a push button, what was left of the push button on the control wheel, and that was used to disconnect autopilot prior to landing or anytime they needed to disconnect the autopilot. So it was on the right-hand side of the control yoke, and so that would have been on the co-pilot side of for the DC-7. There's some other fragments. that are not quite specific to the DC-7, like a headset speaker that could have been from the DC-7. It could have been from the Constellation. That's the problem with items. When people, when they donate things, when they gather stuff at the bottom of the canyon, you don't really know, unless they tell the person who they're donating it to where these pieces were. It's really hard to know for sure which accident site it came from.
So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for a wonderful lecture. It's been an inspiration for those of us very close to the accident, close to the midair collision, to have such a phenomenal resource in yourself and in your website.
Right.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you very much for having me.